Ethan's heart hammered as he tore through the dense forest, jagged branches lashing at his arms and face. Behind him, a chorus of cruel laughter rang out. The predators were closing in on their prey. Just minutes ago, the high school camping trip had taken a deadly turn. He had always been the outcast, quiet, bookish, and easy target, but he never imagined that his classmates' taunts would escalate into a hunt. Now he was running for his life. "Where do you think you're going, freak?" A voice jeered from somewhere in the darkness. It was Aries' voice, honey, sweet when she spoke to teachers, but venomous when aimed at him. Ethan stumbled over an exposed root and nearly fell. Up ahead, a towering figure stepped out from behind a tree, blocking his path. It was Brandon, one of Aries' loyal lackeys. Ethan skidded to a stop. His eyes darted around for any escape. But Aris and her other friends were fanning out behind him. They had corralled him away from the campsite, far beyond where any teacher or student could hear his screams. His mind raced. This was supposed to be a fun overnight field trip, a chance to make friends, maybe prove he wasn't as pathetic as they thought. Aries had even convinced him to join the group for a late-night hike. She had smiled at him kindly by the campfire, luring him with a false promise of friendship. Betrayal burned in his chest. He had allowed himself to hope, and now that friendly smile was twisted into a delighted grin. As she watched him panic, Aries stepped forward, flashlight in hand. She tilted her head in mock concern. "Are you scared?" pouting in fake sympathy. Ethan's throat went dry. Nothing he could say would stop them now. Brandon cracked his knuckles. "You shouldn't have come out here with us," he growled. "Accidents in the woods happen all the time." His tone held a chilling hint that this accident was no accident at all. Desperate, he raised his hands. "Please let me go," he managed, voice trembling. This had gone far beyond a cruel prank. He saw it in their eyes, especially in Aris's bright, unhinged gaze. Aris's manicured nails glinted as she gestured idly with the flashlight. "You know, Ethan," she said lightly, "I really did enjoy our chat by the fire earlier. You're such a good listener." Laughter bubbled from the group at her sarcasm. Her smile vanished, replaced by a cold, pitiless stare. "But honestly, the world would be better off without losers like you. All you do is take up space." Ethan's eyes stung, both from sweat and the barb in her words. "I never did anything to you." Aries shrugged. "You think you're special because you read books and cry in the bathroom. No one cares. The world only need winners," she hissed. Brandon seized that moment of hesitation, lunging toward Ethan with a sneer. He grabbed him by the front of his jacket, intending to shove him around in a show of force. Ethan yelped, caught off guard, kicking up loose rocks and dirt as Brandon's powerful grip hoisted him off his feet. Aries stepped forward with narrowed eyes. "Don't let him run," she said coldly. She gave Brandon a small shove from behind. It proved disastrous. Brandon, unbalanced by Aris's sudden nudge, took an extra step back. The earth crumbled beneath his heels, revealing the cliff drop none of them had noticed. With a startled cry, Brandon lost his footing, and his grip on Ethan's jacket slipped. "Wait!" Aris cried, voice pitching high with fear. She reached out to grab Ethan's sleeve, but missed. Brandon stumbled, nearly toppling forward, and Ethan, eyes wide with horror, tipped over the edge. Air tore past him in a deafening rush as he plummeted. Each bounce and tumble battered him until, with a final sickening thud, he slammed onto the forest floor far below. All went still. High above, Brandon and Aries hovered at the newly revealed precipice, stunned. "What would just happen?" Brandon croaked, peering down into the darkness. Aris's flashlight hand shook uncontrollably as she tried to see Ethan's shape. Far below, they could make out a crumpled form lying too still. We should get help," one of her friends, Chloe, ventured shakily, an edge of uncertainty in her voice. But Aris stepped back, her face pale. "If we tell anyone, it'll look like we did this on purpose." Aries wrapped her free arm around herself, trying to stop shaking. She bit her lip until it hurt. We should get back before the teachers notice." A pang of guilt twisted in the other boy's chest, but they shoved it away. Aris was already turning. Decision made. Brandon and others gave a barely perceptible nod. Meanwhile, Ethan lay twisted among crushed ferns and fallen leaves. They really did it. They tried to kill him. Despair and hatred warred in his heart. Above, the full moon burned indifferent. His consciousness slipped. His last thought before the blackness took him was a desperate, silent plea to any power that might be listening. If only I had the power to make them feel my pain. He was dying. The forest was eerily still. Then somewhere in that silence, a new presence stirred. The crunch of leaves, slow and deliberate. Something was moving in the darkness. Beyond his fading sight, two glowing amber eyes floated in the shadows. Between gnarled trunks, a primal fear surged through him. Was it a bear, a mountain lion? A massive shape emerged from behind the trees, moving on all fours with a fluid predatory grace. Too big to be a wolf, too bestial to be a human. Earlier, around the campfire, Mr. Atkins had joked about Crescent Woods. They say wolves here aren't just wolves. They're judges punishing those who prey on the weak. The class laughed. Ethan hadn't. Now standing before him is the large wolf, standing on two legs. A werewolf. It sounds like a fairy tale. Ethan's blood ran cold. This was how he would die, bullied to the brink of death by his classmates, only to be finished by a nightmare. From a campfire tale, the beast crept closer. When it was mere feet away, it paused. It let out a soft, haunting howl. Then, with terrifying swiftness, it struck, jaws wide. It lunged and bit down on his shoulder. Searing heat spread from the bite, as if the creature's saliva was molten fire, injecting into his veins. Just as quickly as it had bitten, the creature released him. For a moment, it simply watched him, head cocked, as if considering what to do next. Suddenly, the beast's ears perked up. It turned its head sharply toward distant voices, echoing from the direction of the campsite. The creature backed away, disappearing among the trees, with astonishing speed and silence. He was alone once more, but not the same. The forest sounds that had been muffled by pain now roared in his ears. He heard everything: the chirr of crickets, the flap of an owl's wings overhead, even the distant babble of the creek half a mile away. And amid his tattered clothes, he felt a spreading warmth from the bite wound, a heat that was strangely comforting. He coughed and spat weakly. Something within him, some instinct, was taking over. He found that his left arm, which had been numb upon impact, could now move. It felt stiff and sore, but his fingers curled and uncurled. The beast's bite had done something. He didn't know exactly what yet, but he could feel life pouring back into him, summoning reserves of strength he didn't know he had. Ethan began to crawl. He had one thought in mind: survive. The night wore on as he made painfully slow progress. Minutes felt like hours. He paused to catch his breath. In the distance, through the trees, he spotted a faint orange firelight at camp. A surge of hope gave him new energy. He braced against a tree trunk and forced himself upright. Ahead, voices became audible, frantic, calling his name. Ethan, Ethan, where are you? He tried to shout, but his first attempt came out as a ragged croak. He pushed onward, finally finding the edge of a wider trail. The moment he stepped onto it, a flashlight beam swung wildly through the dark, landing on him. "They're over here," a familiar voice yelled. Mr. Atkins, the biology teacher. He raised a trembling hand. Relief hit him as hard as another blow. He was safe, and with it a heavy fatigue. "Oh my God, Ethan!" Mr. Atkins cried, dropping to his knees beside the boy. Warm, steady hands cradled Ethan's shoulders, avoiding the worst injuries. "You're alive, we've got you." Ethan wanted to speak, to explain, but his body had reached its limit. He surrendered to the blackness. The echo of a wolf's howl is the last things etched in his mind, as he finally slipped into unconsciousness. When Ethan regained consciousness next, it was to sterile white lights and the beeping of hospital machines. Doctors marveled at his condition, battered with a nasty bite wound, yet astonishingly stable. Ethan listened in a fog, as they called it, a miracle. Police officers came too. He stuck to a simple. He got separated from the group, fell off a ledge in the dark, and was attacked by a wild animal while he was down. He left out Eris and Brandon on purpose, scared that even saying their names might bring more trouble. Eris and her friends, when questioned separately by teachers, and later quietly by police, all played innocent. They claimed Ethan wandered off, and they tried to find him, but lost sight. There was no evidence to contradict them, and Ethan, whether out of lingering fear or something else, did not accuse them. Within 2 days, he was sitting up in his hospital bed, stunned at how rapidly his body had mended. His mom fussed and hovered, tears in her eyes each time she looked at him. What could he say that a werewolf saved him? Ethan was discharged from the hospital, astonishingly early, only a week after the incident. He arrived home to a warm welcome. Neighbors dropping off meals, his mom doting on him. Even a few classmates. Leaving get well cards in the mailbox. Ethan thanked them politely, but inside, he felt detached. Late at night, when his mom was asleep, he would stand in front of the bathroom mirror. He tested his, picking up the distant bark of a dog 3 blocks away, or sniffing out the leftover pizza in the fridge, without leaving his room. It was exhilarating and frightening all at once. 1 week later, Ethan felt well enough to return to school. His mom was hesitant, but he insisted, citing boredom. The truth was he needed to face them, his tormentors. He needed to see their faces and decide what to do next. Because now something had changed within him. He doesn't feel the same weak loser anymore. 2 weeks after the horrific camping trip, he stepped through the front doors of Crescent High School. Conversations hushed as people noticed him. A path almost cleared in the hallway. Ethan's senses immediately went into overdrive. He could hear whispers from all directions. That's him. He survived that fall. I heard he killed the wolf with his bare hands. These rumors would have embarrassed him before, but now he found them trivial. His focus was laser sharp, honing in on one corner of the hall, where a familiar cluster of students stood. Eris, she was by her locker, surrounded by a couple of girls, who usually hung on her every word. For a split second they locked eyes. Across the hallway, Ethan felt a primal growl simmer in his throat, but he stifled it, maintaining a neutral expression. He refused to look away first. It was Eris who broke gaze. He moved down the hall. There was an intensity in his hazel eyes now that made people uneasy, though they couldn't pinpoint why. Joel, a kid from his math class who had always been friendly, approached carefully. Ethan, hey. Welcome back, man. Joel offered a nervous smile. How are you feeling? Ethan managed a small, genuine smile for Joel. Better, a lot better. Joel bobbed his head. If you need anything, I'm here. There was sympathy and a hint of curiosity in his gaze, as if he wanted to ask more, but didn't. Part of him longed to unburden everything to Joel, to have at least one ally who knew the truth. But he held back. Not yet. As the morning classes passed, Ethan noted too. First, his new abilities were growing stronger and harder to ignore. He could hear the scratch of pencils, like nails on paper, smell the anxiety of a student about to give a presentation, and even read distant text on the whiteboard. At lunch, he deliberately chose a table in the middle of the cafeteria, rather than a secluded corner. He could see Eris 3 tables over, picking at her salad without eating. No one sat with her, an unusual sight. She looked haunted. His heart should have swelled with triumph at seeing his tormentor, brought so low by guilt and fear. But instead he felt a growing hunger. The wolf inside was not satisfied. A sudden clatter jolted Ethan from his thoughts. Across the room, someone had dropped a metal tray. The sharp noise hit his sensitive ears like a gong. He winced, and before he could suppress it, a low growl rumbled in his chest. It lasted only a second, but the group at his table fell silent, and Joel stared at him. You okay? Ethan cleared his throat, forcing a smile. Yes, sorry, still a bit jumpy with loud noises. He rubbed his ear, as if it were just sensitivity from trauma. But a girl across from him frowned slightly. I could have sworn I heard like a dog or something just now. After school, he decided to test something. He felt cooped up after a day of restraint. So instead of heading straight home, he made his way to a rarely used equipment shed behind the school. There, hidden from prying eyes, he performed a simple experiment. He thought of Brandon's sneering face, of being dangled helplessly, and let the anger come. He felt a familiar itch and pressure under his fingernails. When he opened his eyes, a thrill ran through him. His nails had lengthened into pointed claws. Not as massive, but definitely not human. The claws were real, anchored, and sharp. With little effort, Ethan raked them across an old wooden crate. The wood screeched as 4 deep grooves carved through it. He took a deep breath, letting the anger subside. The claws retracted slowly, leaving only normal if slightly ragged nails behind. His heart pounded from the possibilities this opened. Soon they'll know. Next day, in the evening, a silvery white full moon rose behind thin clouds. After dinner, Ethan retreated to his room, claiming exhaustion from physical therapy. He locked his bedroom door and sat on the edge of his bed, heart thumping. Something was happening to his body. Gritting his teeth, he fumbled to open his window. He tumbled out into the backyard. His eyes gleamed towards a sturdy shed over, a leftover from previous owners. It had a heavy door with a latch. stumbling across the dewy grass. He made it to the cellar door, just as another cramp racked his body. He cried out, a sound that started human and ended in a snarl. Fumbling desperately, he yanked the doors open and threw himself down. The short flight of darkness. It was pitch black inside, but he could feel the moon above, like a magnet pulling at every cell. He collapsed onto all fours on the dirt floor. Then the real transformation began. His bones felt like they were on fire. He bit down on his arm to keep from screaming, and felt his teeth, already lengthened into fangs. Vertebrae cracked and realigned, stretching his spine. His limbs lengthened, fur sprouted across his skin. His human mind fought to comprehend it, while another part of him, the wolf, exulted in being set free. At last the creature that was Ethan thrashed about, clawing gouges in the wooden beams. He needed to run to hunt. A howl at the sky. The old doors burst open. The full moon's light flooded in, and the beast crawled out into the yard and loosed a powerful howl that echoed through the quiet suburban night. Dogs in neighboring houses went berserk, barking and whining. Inside the house, his mom, who had been watching late-night TV, startled. She muted the show. Was that a wolf? Alarmed and confused, his mom retreated and called out, Ethan, Ethan, are you out here? No response. She discovers her son's room empty and panicked. Within the hour, she called the police. But by then, Ethan was long gone into the night. At first, there was panic from the human part. I've lost control. I can't stop this. But gradually, he realized the wolf had no intention of harming innocents or running into the town. It was drawn to the true wild, away from people. Then the hunger hit, a deep, gnawing hunger that no human food could satisfy. It needed to run, to hunt, to howl. Silent as a shadow, the werewolf stalked through the forest until he found a deer. With a burst of speed, he lunged. Within a second, it was over. Flesh filled the wolf's mouth, and it triggered a frenzy of feasting. A primal satisfaction seeped through Ethan as the hunger was sated. Hours passed as the moon started its descent. The transformation reversed. When it was over, Ethan lay shivering in the early dawn chill. He remembered everything. That terrified him more than if he'd blacked out. How could he hold such savage memories inside him and still be human? Staggering to his feet, he realized he recognized this section of the woods, maybe a half-hour walk from his neighborhood. During that trek, conflicting feelings racked him until he neared his house. Police cruisers and his mom's car sat parked haphazardly out front. He realized he couldn't just walk up with tattered clothes and confess he'd gone wolf. He needed cover. He deliberately scratched himself to add some fresh bruises. Taking a deep breath, he mustered a dazed eye. I'm here, he called out hoarsely. There he is, an officer shouted. And in seconds, Ethan was surrounded by his frantic mother and concerned police. His mom threw her arms around him. Despite the grime and smell, Ethan, my baby, where have you been? He swayed, letting them think he was on the verge of collapse, which physically he nearly was. I don't remember much, he lied quietly. I woke up in the woods just now. I think I was sleepwalking. The officers exchanged looks. It sounded plausible enough. The paramedics on standby. No hospitals, please. I'm fine, he insisted, voice trembling. I just want to go inside. After a long shower, where he scrubbed away the physical evidence of the night, the horror of it wore with a dark exhilaration. He felt stronger than ever. If he could survive that, if he could become that creature in return, then Ares and her lackeys no longer posed any real threat to him. The days following Ethan's first full moon were marked by a nervous tension, but also by rapid growth. In his understanding of what he had become, he also started keeping a journal, documenting every change in ability. In that hidden notebook, he listed out what he heightened senses, hearing, sight, smell, all far beyond human norms. Accelerated healing. Injuries mend quickly. The bite wound on his shoulder had closed into a silvery scar already. He cautiously tested this by pricking his finger. The tiny wound healed within seconds. Enhanced strength and agility. Far stronger and faster than before. He could sprint, faster than the track team's star runner. Partial and full transformation at claws, fangs, eyes, and soon the full wolf transformation, without losing consciousness. Yet with each experiment, he realized controlling his emotions was as crucial as controlling his physical transformations. The wolf fed on strong feelings, rage, fear, even desire. So he practiced calm, but now he was certainly ready. At night, he would often stalk the neighborhoods unseen. With his senses, it was easy to climb, unseen, onto Ares's backyard fence and watch her house. From the darkness, he could hear her inside on the phone, the voice strained. One such night, he overheard a conversation that brought a sharp grin to his face. Ares was speaking in an urgent whisper to Chloe. Over the phone. "I don't care, Chloe. I know it's him. Who else could it be?" A pause, then, "No, I'm not crazy. You saw what happened to Brandon. And Kevin won't even talk to me anymore. This is falling apart." Her voice cracked. "We have to do something about Ethan. I have to protect myself." Chloe's response was something like, "Maybe we should just come clean." "Are you insane?" Ares hissed on the line. "I'd rather die." Ethan tensed at that. There it was. Ares was cornered like a trapped animal. He had mixed feelings about Chloe. She had been a bystander, yes, and had teased him like the others. But her heart was not fully in it. He could smell her guilt even now. In class, she even tried once to muster a shaky "Ethan, I'm so sorry." Ethan pretended not to hear her, but he knew she might be salvageable as a person. Thus for Chloe, he reserved mercy, albeit with a scare, to ensure she wouldn't stand in his way. He decided to confront Chloe. One drizzly afternoon, he slipped into the art room after the teacher left. Chloe was cleaning paintbrushes at the sink, the last one there. She jumped when the door clicked shut. Seeing Ethan, she went pale, as if facing a ghost. "Ethan," she squeaked, forcing a smile. That quickly faltered when he just stared. In reply, he stepped closer. "Chloe," he said softly. The way he said her name made her flinch. "I wanted to tell you I'm so sorry," she blurted, words tumbling out. Her eyes were shining with tears already. "I never wanted anyone to get hurt. I swear I was too scared to stop it, and that's on me." And Ethan raised a hand, and surprisingly, she fell silent mid-ramble. "I believe you," Ethan said quietly. Chloe blinked in surprise. A tear spilled down her cheek. "But believing you doesn't erase what happened." Chloe nodded rapidly. "I know I'll never forgive myself. If there's anything." He cut her off, voice dropping to a low growl. "There is stay away from Ares. Do not help her. Do not cover for her, understand?" Chloe swallowed and let out a shaky breath. Yes, of course," she whispered, eager. "I don't even talk to her now, I promise." Whatever she saw in his unblinking stare made her knees almost buckle. "Good," he said, and as swiftly as he appeared, he turned to leave without looking back. He added softly, "Chloe, you're not a bad person. Don't be a coward. If you ever see something like this happen again." Then he slipped out, leaving the girls sobbing quietly at the sink. One by one, he turned his attention to her lackeys. Ethan confronted the first one, Brandon, the one who dropped him. One late afternoon, Brandon spotted Ethan by the lockers. Despite a flicker of fear in his eyes, he puffed himself up and spat. "You got some nerve showing up again." Marching over to him in an instant, Ethan's hand lashed out, clamping onto Brandon's wrist with iron force. The bully's self-assured grin twisted into a grimace of pain as he tightened his grip. With one sharp twist, he slammed Brandon's back into the lockers, a resounding bang shaking the air. "How is he this strong?" Brandon thought. Leaning in close, Ethan spoke softly, almost politely. "Don't ever touch me again." Desperate, Brandon swung his free fist. He caught it with ease, pinning both of Brandon's wrists high above his head. The once fearsome jock stood utterly helpless, eyes wide as he gazed into him. Finally, he let go, and Brandon collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Ethan raised his fist, ready to finish Brandon in a single blow. The sight of the big bully cowering and whimpering, eyes brimming with tears, triggered a memory of himself, of the countless times he had felt this way. An invisible switch flickered in his mind. With a quiet exhale, he lowered his hand and turned away from the ground. Brandon watched him walk off. He couldn't stop trembling in that moment, as tears blurred his vision. Those inhumanly strong hands would haunt him forever, a reminder that he had glimpsed a monster. Next, he picked off the others in quick succession. Josh, the loud-mouthed linebacker, who always boasted about his undefeated record in fights, came at him first, while Leon, quieter but with a mean streak, tried flanking him with a metal bat. Neither had expected his inhuman speed. Josh lunged at him with a roar, but Ethan sidestepped easily and tripped him, sending Josh sprawling face first into the dirt. Leon swung a metal bat he'd brought for backup, but he caught it mid-swing. The shock on Leon's face was absolute, as he ripped the bat from his hands and tossed it like it was nothing. Josh scrambled up and charged again in blind rage. This time, Ethan didn't budge. He met the charge head-on with a single powerful shove. He sent Josh reeling backwards until crack. Josh's back hit a tree and he slumped down, groaning in pain. Leon tried to run. Fear had overtaken the bully's bravado, but he was faster, far faster. He blurred past Leon and blocked the path. Leon skidded to a halt, eyes wide in desperation. Leon threw a wild punch. He caught the fist in mid-air. Leon yelped as he squeezed. It felt like his knuckles were crushing. Leon cried out, forced down to his knees no more. He could feel his breath at his ear as Ethan growled, "If you ever mess with me again, that will be your last." Leon nodded frantically, face streaked with tears of pain and fear. He released him with a small shove. Both bullies were left bruised and terrified, their pride utterly crushed. One by one, the pillars of Eris's reign toppled. Her muscle, her court, her reputation, all that was left was the queen herself. Ethan prepared for the final confrontation. Eris quickly realized her gang of bullies was no help anymore. Brandon avoided her entirely, refusing to answer her calls. Other boys, once eager to do her bidding, now sat pale and silent in the cafeteria. When Ares cornered them demanding, "What happened to you idiots?" their reactions only fueled her panic. Boy's eyes darted around as he muttered, "Ethan, he's not normal, huh? He's like a monster." Refusing to say anything more, Ares' heart pounded. In a matter of days, Ethan had turned her loyal henchmen into scared children. They had all thought he was gone. Now he was back, and somehow he had become powerful. She felt control slipping through her fingers. For the first time in her life, Eris had no one to rely on. She thought about going to the principal, or even the police, but fear and pride held her back. What would she say? That the boy she bullied was scaring her, that she and her friends had tried to kill him, and now he wanted revenge. Ares realized there was only one terrible solution left. She had to eliminate Ethan permanently, before he did the same to her. If her lackeys couldn't protect her, she would protect herself. Late one night in her bedroom, she yanked open her closet and pulled out a small metal box hidden beneath old shoes. Inside lay the cold steel of her father's handgun. "I won't let him ruin me," Eris whispered to herself, trying to steady her breathing. "It ends here," she thought. When the next day arrived, Eris was running on nervous adrenaline. She slipped a note into Ethan's locker between classes. "Meet me at the old field shed after sunset. We need to end this, Ares." Ethan read it expressionless, then slowly raised his eyes across the hall to meet hers. Ares quickly looked away, feeling exposed. For him, this was a perfect moment. A dark smile rose to his face. Dusk settled over the abandoned sports field. Eris stood by the rickety wooden shed at the edge of the field. She nearly jumped out of her skin when Ethan's figure emerged from the twilight. She had expected him to look angry or vengeful, but his face was calm, unreadable. That frightened her even more. Finally, he broke the silence. "You wanted to talk, I'm here." He took one step closer. Involuntarily, Ares stepped back, bumping against the shed. "Yes, talk," she echoed. Her hands trembled, but she tightened her grip. Finger on the trigger. "This ends now." Ares squeezed the trigger. The gunshot shattered the quiet evening. She watched as the bullet hit Ethan, square in the shoulder. She hit him. For an instant, hope and triumph flared in her chest. But then her triumph turned to horror. He didn't fall. Instead, he straightened up. He lifted a hand and removed the bullet from the spot it hit. Eyes never leaving Ares. "No." Ares breathed, disbelief flooding her. How is that possible? Panicking, Ares fired again. The second bullet whizzed past Ethan's side as he moved with startling speed. One moment, he was 10 paces away. The next, he was 5, closing the distance with a frightening calm. Ares's eyes went wide. What are you?" She choked out, voice barely a whisper of dread. Ethan leaned in, and for the first time, Ares saw anger flaring in his eyes. He didn't answer her question. Instead, he simply said, "You shouldn't have done that." Hot rage flooded his veins, mixing with the pain of the gunshot. If Ares wanted to see what he truly was, then he would show her. He stepped back, his body starting to contort. At first, she thought he was writhing in pain from the injury. Then came the sound, a wet, sickening crack of bones shifting. Ares's confusion turned to raw fear as she watched Ethan begin to change. His fingers curled and lengthened, nails sharpening into curved claws. Ares stood paralyzed, her mind refusing to believe what she saw. Ethan knew the creature that had been him, grew taller and broader, until he was nearly twice his old size. The handgun, her last hope, was empty. With the transformation complete, he let out a thunderous howl that pierced the night. The sound was primal, full of pain, triumph, and vengeance all at once. Adrenaline took over Ares, and at last her legs obeyed. She turned and bolted into the field. He could hear her panicked breaths, her rapid heartbeat thudding like a drum. In his wolf form, the night was bright as day to his eyes. Ares glanced over her shoulder as she ran, and her heart nearly stopped. Ethan was gaining on her impossibly fast. He was toying with her. She could tell he wasn't even running full out, just easily closing the gap with those powerful limbs. Her foot caught on a hummock in the uneven grass, and she crashed to the ground with a cry. Scrambling, she tried to get up, but before she could, a heavy weight slammed into the ground in front of her. He had leapt and landed directly in her path. Ares's mind was in complete shambles. This can't be happening, her mind shrieked. But the evidence towered over her. Snarling on all fours again, the werewolf began circling her, each movement fluid and deadly graceful. Before she could twist around, a powerful, furry arm hooked around her waist from behind and hoisted her off the ground. Ares shrieked, kicking her legs uselessly. In one swift motion, Ethan threw her. She flew through the air like a rag doll and tumbled onto the grass a few yards away. Dazed and sobbing, he had flung her away with such casual ease, not to kill, but to prove how utterly outmatched she was. Pain jolted through her side where she hit the ground, and Ares coughed. Tears streamed down her face. Please, she sobbed, voice cracking. Please, Ethan, I am sorry. This monster could tear her apart in seconds, if it wanted, and worst of all, she deserved it. She knew that now. Every horrible thing she had done was flashing before her eyes. This was the fear she had inflicted on others on him. Now she was drowning in it herself, and it was unbearable. Ares began to babble desperately. That night at the quarry, it was my idea, she wailed. I told them to scare you, but you accidentally fell. His growl deepened at those words, and Ares flinched. I'm sorry, she shrieked. I'm sorry, Ethan. I was wrong, I was horrible. Please, please don't kill me. For a long, tense moment, Ethan did not move. He stared down at Ares, the amber fire in his eyes gradually dimming. Her pitiful state, her complete surrender, finally sated the burning rage inside him. She would never hurt anyone again. He was certain of that now. Slowly, the massive werewolf stepped back. Ethan's form began to shift once more. Now in his human form, he knelt down on one knee, bringing himself level with the quivering girl. His face was calm, but utterly devoid of sympathy. Now you know what it's like, he said quietly. She stared at the ground, tears dripping from her chin, with one last look at the bully, who had once made his life a nightmare. Ethan stood up. Without another word, he turned and walked away the night. Next day, he stepped into Crescent High the next morning, feeling an unfamiliar sense of ease. Whispers followed Ethan, but not the same ones from before. Did you see Ares? She looked like she hasn't slept in a week. Brandon's still avoiding him. So are other boys. What did he do to them? Ethan ignored them, walking calmly to his locker. He no longer carried himself like the timid outcast he once was. He was confident, strong. As the day progressed, he noticed something off. By the time the last period rolled around, he had a nagging feeling something was coming. His instincts were screaming at him, the same way they had before the full moon. Something wasn't right. The final bell rang, and students flooded the halls, eager to leave. Ethan headed toward the exit when his ears picked up a shift in the air, a smell that didn't belong. His muscles tensed. He weaved through the dispersing students and exited the building. Following his instincts, he moved past the school parking lot, toward the edge of the woods bordering Crescent High, and then he saw it. A massive claw mark gouged into the side of a tree. His breath quickened. He scanned the ground. Footprints, they didn't belong to any human, a werewolf. Ethan's head whipped up, his pupils dilating as his body tensed. Something was watching him. A massive hulking shape stepped forward, muscles rippling beneath dark fur. Its sheer size dwarfed Ethan's own wolf form. And then in a deep, guttural voice that sent ice down Ethan's spine, it spoke, I've been looking for you, pup. Ethan's world shattered in that instant. The werewolf wasn't alone. More glowing eyes flickered to life in the shadows behind it. After a long time, Ethan felt small,